I don't know when I stopped trusting my own television. Maybe it was last month when the weather alerts kept firing for storms that never came, or maybe it was last night when the screen stopped being just glass and pixels and started watching back. I was on my couch, half asleep, scrolling nothing on my phone while a rerun hummed in the background. That was the kind of night. It was empty, dull, familiar. The lamp buzzed like it always did, one bulb threatening to die but never quite giving in. I wasn't thinking about danger or doors or rules, just another Tuesday. The show cut mid-laugh track. At first I thought the cable had glitched again, but then the screen went gray, not static, not clean either. More like someone had poured ash into the signal. Then the tone hit. You know the one. The emergency alert system's test siren, sharp enough to slice through bone. Except it didn't fade after the first blast. It drilled, long and steady, until my chest thudded to its rhythm. The words rolled out flat, automated but too deliberate. Emergency alert. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. That was all. No flood warning, no amber alert, no weather advisory. Just that line. I laughed. Honest to God, I laughed out loud. It felt like one of those late-night prank hacks kids post online, pirating the signal to scare old people. I even texted my buddy Mark. Guess the town's haunted by a door now, lol. No reply. The broadcast repeated, same voice, same phrasing. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Over and over, until my phone vibrated in my hand and the same words lit up in push notifications from the local news app. That's when the humor cracked. I muted the TV. The gray screen didn't fade. It sat there like wet paint refusing to dry. And in the smear of shifting pixels, something darker showed through. Not random distortion. A shape, a rectangle too straight, too solid. A door without a wall. My hand twitched toward the remote, but I didn't turn the screen off. I didn't want to. I kept staring until my eyes ached. The fridge hummed in the kitchen. Pipes shifted in the walls. Ordinary sounds, but wrong now, like the house was listening. I forced myself up, opened the fridge, grabbed the nearest thing, milk, sour already, poured it down the drain just to hear liquid hit the steel. Anything procedural, normal. Anchor myself in the familiar rhythm of wasted groceries and humming appliances. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. When I came back, the TV was black. No ash-gray haze, no broadcast. Just my reflection staring back at me, pale in the lamp's glow. I should have turned it off. Should have gone to bed. But instead I sat there for another hour, waiting for the broadcast to return. Didn't. The next morning, I told myself it was a dream. Sleep deprivation, sour milk, whatever. I showered, went to work at the library, filed books, signed kids' cards, smiled when I had to. But the words wouldn't leave. They threaded into the rhythm of the day. Every time I stamped a return, I heard them under the thud of the ink. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. At lunch, I checked my phone. Nothing on the news sites. No coverage. I asked Carla, one of the staff, if she'd seen the alert last night. She looked at me like I'd asked if she believed in Santa. No, she said, shrugging. Maybe you dreamed it. Maybe I had. But then, walking home after dark, I passed the cul-de-sac where the streetlights always been busted. And for a second, I thought I saw something standing there in the lot across from Keller's house. Not a shed, not a dumpster. A frame. Just a frame. The air prickled, heavy, and I felt like I'd stepped onto someone else's property, even though it was just public grass. My feet slowed. My brain screamed to keep moving, keep walking, don't be an idiot. But my eyes hooked on it. A rectangle taller than me, painted deep red like dried blood. No walls around it, just the door. I blinked. The streetlight flickered once, and the frame was gone. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I yanked it out. Screen lit white, then black, then a single line in bold text. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. No sender. No notification source. When I blinked, the words vanished, replaced by my lock screen. My hand shook so bad the phone almost slipped. Across the street, Mrs. Keller was on her porch, wrapped in that ratty robe she always wore. Her eyes weren't on me, they were on the empty lot. "You saw it too," she said, not a question. I didn't move. Her voice cracked like dry wood splintering. "Don't look at it too long. It follows." I wanted to ask her what the hell that meant, but my throat sealed up. I turned and walked fast, faster, until I hit my driveway. Didn't even look back. Now I'm here writing this down. I keep the TV off, but the reflection still stares from the black screen like it's waiting for me to blink. Every noise in the house feels wrong, delayed, like the walls are listening before they echo. And I swear the words don't just repeat anymore. They've changed. Last night, half asleep, I thought I heard them whisper from inside the static. "Avoid the red door. Do not open it. It already knows you." I told myself I wouldn't look outside tonight. Not at the cul-de-sac. Not at the lot across from Keller's porch. But here I am, blinds half cracked, eyes dragging toward the dark anyway. The lot's empty. Of course it's empty. The streetlight flickers, but no frame, no door. Just grass and trash bins. Still, I keep staring, waiting for the shape to return. The alert hasn't replayed, not on TV or my phone. But I hear it anyway, in memory or something worse. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. The phrase sticks like gum to my teeth. I catch myself mouthing it under my breath while brushing my teeth, while locking the deadbolt, even while pissing. Not a choice. Compulsion. I start keeping a notebook on the coffee table. Date, time, what I see, what I hear. Like a log will prove I'm not unraveling. Entry, 11:42 p.m. TV flickered again. No broadcast, just black screen. Reflection doubled, one me looking forward, one slightly off to the side. For a second, the second me's mouth moved. Didn't match mine. I didn't sleep. I pretended to, but every creak was a knock, every gust outside a whisper. By 3 in the morning, I was still awake, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks, slow, hollow. I froze in bed, not at the front door, not wood on wood, came from inside the house. The TV. I sat up, every muscle wired, and sure enough, the screen pulsed faint gray, like static smeared under glass. A faint outline showed, then sharpened. A rectangle, red, faint but unmistakable. I whispered the refrain out loud, like it might help. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. The knock stopped. By morning, the screen was blank again. No proof left. Just me and the notebook, and the whisper repeating like a worm burrowed behind my ear. I tried normalcy again. Grocery run, gas station stop, all the rote tasks. People were jumpy, though. I noticed it when I was waiting at checkout. The woman in front of me gripped her phone like it might vanish. She kept glancing at the door behind the counter, one of those employee-only backroom doors. White, not red, but her breathing hitched every time it creaked. When she left, I stepped forward. The cashier scanned my stuff slow, distracted. His lips moved, barely audible, like he was muttering to himself. I leaned closer. He was whispering it. Not all of it, just half, like a nursery rhyme fragment. Do not open it. The scanner beeped. He blinked at me, like waking from a trance, and said nothing. I didn't ask. I didn't want him to realize I'd heard. At home, Keller caught me outside. She shuffled up in that robe, eyes too wide, and grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "You keep a log?" she asked. I stammered, didn't answer. "You should," she said, "or it will change your memory." Then she leaned closer, breath sour and urgent. "And don't look at it too long. It follows." She let go and walked back to her porch like we just discussed the weather. I added it to my notebook anyway. Entry: 2:09 p.m. Rule from Keller: don't look at it too long. It follows. That night, the door came back. Not in the cul-de-sac. Not on the TV. In my living room. I'd left the lamp on, warm glow filling the room. I was halfway through a cold sandwich when the air shifted. Silent. Heavy. Wrong. My skin prickled before I even turned. And there it was. A door, standing flush against the far wall where no door had ever been. The frame crooked, edges warping the drywall. Paint glistening wet so red it looked alive. The handle, brass but tarnished, like it had passed through too many hands. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The lamp flickered once, and the door seemed closer, like the frame had nudged forward while I blinked. My sandwich dropped from my hand, mayo smearing across my jeans. I didn't even notice. My whole body locked on that frame, that impossible invitation. Knock. 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 Not loud, gentle, almost polite. I wanted to scream, wanted to run. Instead, I whispered it, voice trembling, almost prayer. "Avoid the red door. Do not open it." The knock stopped again, but the handle turned. Just a twitch, enough to squeal against unseen metal. And I swear, I saw light bleed through the edges. Not yellow lamplight, not anything warm. It was white and sharp, like a hospital corridor stripped of humanity. Then, as sudden as it appeared, the lamp steadied. The air released, and the wall was just wall again. No door. Entry: 11:01 p.m. It was inside tonight. Knock stopped when I repeated the rule. Handle moved. There was light, not ours. I didn't tell anyone. Who would I tell? Carla at work, who already thinks I'm losing it. Mark, who won't even reply to my texts. So I write this down. I document, because Keller's right, memory bends. Already I doubt myself. Did the handle really move? Or did I dream it with my eyes open? Was the light real or just lamp glare? The notebook keeps it solid. But one thing I don't doubt, the refrain works. The knock stop when I say it. That's not paranoia, that's procedure. And procedure is the only thing keeping me here. Last night, just before sleep, I thought I heard another voice under the refrain. Not the broadcast, not Keller. A whisper, softer, from behind the wall. "You've already opened it." I don't know if that's true. God, I don't know if that's true. But the thought won't leave. What if I already did? The first time it happened during the day, I was in the diner on Main Street, drinking coffee that tasted like burnt oil. The TVs over the counter were playing the local news. Mayor talking about pothole repairs. Weather girl smiling too wide. Then the screen snapped gray. Not static. That tone hit again, drilling straight into the silverware. Every fork rattled against its plate. A waitress dropped a tray. The words followed, same as before. "Emergency alert. Avoid the red door. Do not open it." Everyone froze. Half the diner stared up. Half looked away like pretending not to see would make it vanish. The voice repeated, steady as a metronome. "Avoid the red door. Do not open it." Again and again, until my head pounded with it. Then the message glitched. Screen fuzzed, pixel edges crawling. For a fraction of a second, the feed showed not the mayor, not the weather girl. Just a single frame. A door standing alone in a dirt lot. The same red. The ash gray returned, and the alert repeated. The waitress whispered it under her breath, not realizing, "Do not open it," like it had been planted in her. I left cash on the counter and got out. By afternoon, every screen in town carried it. Gas pumps, ATM machines, even the old marquee outside the movie theater glitched to display the line, "Avoid the red door, do not open it." No movie times, just that. Phones buzzed non-stop. People showed each other identical notifications, all unsourced, all repeating the rule. Someone at the gas station swore his pacemaker had vibrated in rhythm with the alert tone. I walked home with my head down, notebook clutched tight. Every block felt heavier. Every corner I expected to see it. Entry: 3:47 p.m. Broadcast spreading. Every screen. Everyone hears it now. Rule is not just mine anymore. Keller was outside when I passed her place. She wasn't smoking this time. She just stood in the yard, arms slack at her sides, eyes glazed over like she hadn't slept. When she noticed me, she hissed, "Don't linger. It notices groups." I wanted to ask how she knew that, but she was already turning, muttering something that sounded like prayer. At home, I tried to keep busy. Cleaned dishes, made lists, procedures help. Normal keeps the walls straight, but the alerts wouldn't stop. Every hour, my phone buzzed. Same message, same refrain. Avoid the red door, do not open it. No sender, no option to block. I shut it off, turned the phone face down. The screen lit anyway. No notification, just a photo. A boy at a bus stop, eyes hollow, staring straight ahead. Behind him, in the blurred background, a door stood where no structure should. Then it vanished. Screen black. I needed air. I walked, past shuttered shops, past the fire station. Everyone else was walking too, aimless like sleepwalkers. Their phones buzzed in their hands, and every so often someone muttered the refrain aloud, like a charm against bad weather. At the corner by the school, I heard kids arguing. One boy said his father had gone inside the door last night, said he hadn't come back yet, but the family was setting a place for him at dinner anyway. The other kid shoved him, called him a liar, but neither of them laughed. As I passed the sheriff's office, two deputies leaned against a cruiser, smoking. One of them muttered between drags, voice low but sharp, "Report sightings immediately." The other nodded, jaw tight. Neither looked at me. Entry: 6:22 p.m. Report spreading. Boy at bus stop, father gone through. Deputies repeating, "Report sightings immediately." Either orders or programming. By evening, I stopped pretending I could ignore it. Every radio, every channel, every screen, same refrain. The air itself felt wired. I tried to call Mark again, straight to voicemail. Tried Carla. Line clicked, then dropped. When the house went silent, I thought I'd escaped it. But then the radio in the kitchen clicked on by itself, knob unmoved. Ash gray hum poured through the speakers. The voice followed. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Only this time, after the third repetition, new words crackled through. Report all sightings immediately. My blood went cold. Report to who? No number, no name, just the order. I sat at the table, notebook open, hands shaking too hard to write. If there was someone to report to, that meant they already knew. Maybe had always known. I thought about Keller's line, "Don't look too long, it follows." Thought about the cashier whispering. Thought about the boy at the bus stop setting a dinner plate for a ghost. Systemic. Not just me. Not just Keller. And worse, organized. Someone wants us to keep track for them. That night, the alert woke me again. Not on TV this time. On the old VCR I hadn't touched in years. The machine powered itself, Green clock blinking midnight. Tape inside, though I hadn't put one there. The static rolled, grainy, thick. Out of it, a door shimmered into focus. Red, sharp-edged, closer than before. Then an eye filled the screen. Not human. Too round, pupil too wide. Stared straight at me, unblinking. The refrain overlaid, whispering now, layered with a dozen voices. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Report sightings immediately. I ripped the cord from the wall. The eye lingered 1 second longer, glowing faint green in the dark, before fading. Entry: 12:03 a.m. VCR activated. I in static. Message changed again. Not just avoidance. Now obedience. Surveillance. Deputies already echoing it. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The notebook kept me anchored, but every page was heavier, ink pressing into me like confession. I thought about how the messages shifted. First, avoid, personal. Then, don't open, survival. Now report, systemic. Rule of revelation. Step by step, they're pulling us deeper. And if there's reporting, there's record keeping. If there's record keeping, there's control. But control by who? Or what? I hear it again now, faint, behind the walls. The knock hasn't come yet, but the air is tight, waiting. I keep repeating it, whispering until my throat cracks. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. But it's not enough anymore. Because now I know they're listening. The first one appeared on my street. Not on a screen. Not in static. Real wood, real paint. I was carrying groceries when I saw it standing halfway down the block, angled against the curb like it belonged there. A freestanding door with no frame, no hinges, no house behind it. Just red, too bright under the gray sky. 2 kids rode by on bikes, swerving wide, eyes down. One of them whispered the refrain without meaning to. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. I dropped the groceries. Oranges rolled into the gutter. The door didn't move, but the air around it shimmered, like heat off asphalt. Entry: 9:14 a.m. It's on my street now. First close encounter. Real, not broadcast. Not hallucination. I tried to call Keller. She didn't answer. Her curtains were drawn. Porch light still burning even in daylight. A cigarette rested in her ashtray. The filter burned to nothing. She never left them unfinished. I stood at her fence longer than I should have, waiting for her face to appear at the window. Nothing. By noon, more doors had appeared. At least 3 that I saw. One behind the fire station, one at the bus stop, one by the edge of the park. All the same red, all freestanding. Some had people watching them. Not crowds, just individuals standing too close, faces slack, as if hypnotized. None touched the handle. Not yet. The afternoon broadcast changed again. Screens buzzed ash gray, that tone hammering the room, and then the voice delivered a new directive. Do not remain within 6 feet of the red door. Report all sightings immediately. The refrain doubled now, stacking rules like bricks. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report all sightings immediately. I wrote them all down in the notebook, line after line. My hand shook so bad the ink bled through. When I stepped outside again, I saw deputies placing cones around the door on my street. Yellow tape fluttered, useless. The 2 men moved slow, not looking at the handle. One muttered, 6 feet, 6 feet, like he was reminding himself where to stand. Another door flickered into existence at the corner. One of the deputies swore, pulled back fast. Jesus Christ, another one. They didn't tape it, they just left. Entry: 2:02 p.m. Rules multiply. Distance. Reporting. Spreading faster than containment. Law enforcement no longer trying. Avoidance only. I tried to barricade my own house, pushed furniture against every entry, taped black paper over the windows, unplugged the VCR. Still, the static followed. My laptop powered itself on, screen crawling with gray snow. Out of it came the faint outline of a hand pressing against glass. Not my glass, some other pane somewhere else. But the pressure bent the pixels outward like it wanted through. The machine whispered the refrain in a dozen overlapping voices. Then the new rule. Do not remain within 6 feet. I slammed it shut, pulled the battery, shoved it in the closet. That night, the knocking returned. Not from one place this time, from 3. The walls, the ceiling, the floor. I whispered the rules into my notebook like prayer beads. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report sightings immediately. The knocks answered in rhythm, like it was reciting with me. Entry, 12:16 a.m. In those I know. By morning, Keller was gone. Her yard empty, porch lights still on. I found her notebook tossed in the grass, pages torn by rain. Inside, the rules repeated over and over, but near the back she had scrawled something different. If you hear your name from behind the door, do not answer. New rule. Not from broadcast, from her. Her handwriting cut off mid-sentence. In town, things had changed. Half the stores were closed. People walked fast, heads down. Some carried tape measures, keeping wide arcs around doorways that had no walls. At the post office, I saw one inside the lobby, leaning against the counter. A man in uniform stood 5 feet away, sweating through his shirt, whispering the refrain under his breath. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. He kept glancing at the handle like it was moving. I didn't wait to see if it did. Entry, 3:41 p.m. Keller's gone. She left another rule. Hearing names. Dangerous. Added to notebook. That evening, static filled my bathroom mirror. Not the glass fog, not my reflection. Just snow crawling over the surface. And in it, for one breath, a face looked back. My own, but eyes black. It mouthed something. My name. I staggered back, hit the sink. My voice came out broken, desperate. No, I won't answer. The face smiled, teeth too sharp, before the mirror went clear. I didn't sleep. I sat at the table, lights off, notebook open. Every creak of the house felt like another door forming in the dark. I thought about Keller's missing body, about the deputies backing away, about the boy setting a plate for his vanished father. And I realized the pattern. The rules weren't warnings. They were stages. First, avoid. Then, do not open. Then, distance. Then, report. Now, do not answer when it calls. Each one draws the line closer, narrows the space where we can exist, until there's nowhere left. The knock came again, this time from inside the living room. Slow, patient. I whispered every rule I had, throat raw, voice cracking. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report sightings immediately. If you hear your name, do not answer. The knock stopped. For now, I thought I could hold steady if I kept the notebook close. Anchor myself with ink, with rules lined one after another like ribs of a cage. But cages rot. The morning news never came back. Every channel now flickered with ash gray. Sometimes the broadcast voice repeated the refrain. Sometimes it stayed silent, screen hissing like breath between cracked teeth. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report all sightings immediately. If you hear your name from behind the door, do not answer. I copied them again, each in thick black ink. My hand cramped. Around noon, I forced myself out. Needed supplies. Needed to see if anyone else was still moving. The streets were half empty. Storefront windows dark. Doors, red ones, stood at random intervals, taped off, ignored, or simply left to hum like open wires. The library was unlocked. Inside, a single lamp burned at the front desk, but no librarian. Rows of books gaped like hollow teeth. I went to the archives. Old newspapers stacked in crumbling boxes, film reels gathering dust. The microfiche machine still worked. I turned the crank, screens sliding page by page, searching for anything that sounded like this. Any mention of doors, rules, disappearances. And I found them. Clipping, March 1974. Local farmer claims false door appeared in barn. Officials dismissed the report as hallucination from pesticide exposure. Farmer's family later relocated. Clipping, July 1986. Town fair disrupted by emergency signal hijacking loudspeakers. Witnesses recall repeated warnings about a red threshold. Authorities attribute incident to pranksters. Clipping, October 1999. Broadcast failure leads to mass panic. Residents claim to have seen unattached doors across neighborhoods. Official statement cites power surge. The language was always softened, always brushed away. But the pattern was there. Entry, 1:22 p.m. It happened before, covered, brushed as accidents. Every decade like a cycle. This time, escalation. This time, too visible to bury. I heard footsteps in the archive hall. Heavy, dragging. I ducked behind shelves, breath shallow. A man walked past. Deputy uniform, badge askew. His eyes were wrong. Not glazed. Not hollow. Just fixed. Locked on nothing. He carried a folder. Papers slipped loose, drifting across the floor. I reached one after he passed. Typed, government seal at the header. Blurred but legible. Threshold event containment protocol, Rev 5. Lines beneath. Stage 1, issue avoidance directive. Stage 2, enforce perimeter distance. Stage 3, encourage citizen reporting. Stage 4, suppression of responses to auditory cues. Stage 5, pending. The page ended there. Entry, 1:37 p.m. Stages match exactly. They knew. Rules aren't random, designed, hidden from us until too late. I almost followed him. My legs wanted to move, to trail behind, to demand answers. But every step felt heavier than the last, like the air itself would pin me if I tried. I pictured him turning, folder opening, and instead of pages, a door painted inside. I saw my own hands on the handle. My knees buckled. I sat on the archive floor, clutching the notebook, breath stuttering. For a minute, I thought about giving up, just walking into the next red frame I saw, letting it all end. But the refrain looped in my skull, louder than despair. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. I dragged myself up, shaking. Outside, the air buzzed faint with static. A man across the street was painting over a storefront sign. Bright red strokes, covering letters with sloppy urgency. He kept muttering as he worked, "Paint it shut, paint it shut, paint it shut." But his brush didn't stop at the wall. He painted a rectangle across empty air. A shape, a door. And for a blink, the paint bled outward, as if sucked into wood grain that shouldn't exist. I didn't wait to see if a handle formed. At home, I pulled every clipping into piles, notebook open. The pattern was systemic. Doors appear, orders escalate, authorities erase history. But the question dug deeper: were the rules meant to protect us or condition us? If the institution had known for decades, why hadn't they stopped it? Unless stopping wasn't possible. Unless the rules themselves weren't theirs to give. Maybe the voice behind the static isn't government. Maybe the voice is the door. That night, I tested myself. Read the rules aloud, line by line, slow. My throat felt raw. On the third rule, do not remain within 6 feet. The window glass trembled. On the fifth, if you hear your name, do not answer. A whisper came, layered over mine, finishing the sentence before I could. Sounded like me. Entry, 11:44 p.m. I tried sleeping at the table, notebook under my arm. My dreams cracked open anyway. I stood in the archive again, reels spinning without touch. Pages of rules fluttered in the air like wings, and between shelves stood a door, red glowing. Its handle turned, slow, like a clock hand ticking forward. From behind it, dozens of voices recited the rules in unison. Not warnings, hymns. When the door opened, there was no room beyond, just a black expanse filled with unblinking eyes. I woke gasping, heart choking itself. The notebook lay open where I hadn't left it. A sentence written in cramped hand. Not mine. Stage 5, integration. The knocking hasn't stopped since. I didn't go back to the library. Couldn't. The folder, the clippings, the deputy's hollow stare. Those were enough. I barricaded myself inside instead, trying to untangle it all. But the rules kept circling in my head like vultures. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report all sightings immediately. If you hear your name from behind the door, do not answer. 5 stages, and the 6th already written in my notebook without my hand. Integration. Entry, 7:19 a.m. The broadcasts changed again, not on a schedule but in waves like tides. Ash gray tone, then the voice. Only now the warnings were intercut with fragments. Fractured words I couldn't piece. A string of numbers, then coordinates. I mapped them out on the back of the notebook. Locations across town. Everyone I checked lined up with where a door had appeared. It wasn't just warnings anymore. It was tracking, cataloging. And maybe it was using me to do the same. That afternoon, I walked the edge of town. Barricades lined the highway, manned by soldiers in uniforms I didn't recognize. Not army, not guard, patches unmarked, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. Every car was turned back. I heard one man beg to leave, voice cracking, swearing he hadn't gone near any doors. They dragged him out anyway, strapped him into a van. As it pulled away, I caught a glimpse through the barred window. Inside, dozens of people sat strapped upright, heads hanging, whispering the refrain in perfect unison. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Not warnings, mantras. For a second, I saw myself sitting among them. I remembered the old fire drills in school, the assemblies where we were told to repeat simple lines back at teachers. Safety rules, they called them. What if those weren't drills? What if we'd been rehearsing this the whole time, primed to obey when the real rules arrived? My stomach turned. My own voice echoed in memory. 10 years old, repeating words I hadn't understood, just following like everyone else. Maybe I'd been conditioned long before I ever heard the first alert. Entry, 2:41 p.m. I followed back streets, skirting soldiers until I reached the high school. The building was dark except for one flickering projector inside the gym. I slipped through. On the screen, grainy black and white footage rolled. Rows of children in the same gym decades earlier, eyes wide, repeating after a man at the podium. His voice was steady, calm, dictating the same lines I'd written in my notebook. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. The children chanted back, over and over, until their voices blurred into static. The film burned out. The screen went white. Entry: 4:03 p.m. Back home, I tried to breathe, to think. The walls creaked. The knocks hadn't come in hours, but silence was worse. I turned on the radio, hoping for noise. Static filled the air, but not the usual hiss. This time it shaped words. My own voice, reading my entries aloud. Every one I'd written. I ripped the notebook shut, pressed it to my chest, but the voice kept going. Every mistake, every stutter I'd scratched into the margins, echoing back, until it reached the latest. Integration equals final step. Then silence. I curled into the corner, knees to chest. My own words weren't mine anymore. My thoughts weren't private. I wondered if Keller's missing pages had ended up broadcast too. The next day I found proof. Walking past the hardware store, I saw an old TV in the window flicker on. My handwriting appeared on screen, grainy but clear. The same entry I'd written at dawn. Integration equals final step. What does that mean? Below it, new text bled in, glitching like corrupted subtitles. You are already part of it. Entry: 10:16 a.m. I tried tearing pages from the notebook, burning them in the sink. The flames caught, but when I turned back, the pages were whole again, ink darker, words etched deeper than before. The rules weren't just instructions anymore. They were scripture, and scripture rewrites itself. That night I dreamed again. This time I wasn't in the archive. I was in the high school gym, standing in line with children who looked like blurred copies of me. Same hair, same jacket, faces smeared in static. The man at the podium lifted his hand. His eyes were glowing white, pupils gone. His voice was both thunder and whisper. Stage 5, integration. Every copy of me answered in unison. We are ready. When I woke, the notebook was open, a new sentence carved into the paper, not written with ink but gouged into the page. Stage 6, reflection. Entry: 3:02 a.m. The bathroom mirror was already humming when I went to check. Static crawled across the glass. My reflection splintered into dozens of me's, each slightly out of sync. Some mouthed words I hadn't said. Some stood closer than they should. One leaned forward, hand pressing the inside of the glass. Its lips moved, forming the refrain. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. But then, smile widening, it added what I hadn't dared to write. Open yourself instead. I stumbled back. The reflection didn't vanish. All of them stayed watching. Entry: 6:14 a.m. I covered the bathroom mirror with a blanket, but the hum didn't stop. It leaked through fabric, vibrating my teeth. At night, I swore I could hear laughter from behind the glass. Thin, deliberate, and too familiar. I smashed it with a hammer. Shards scattered, but each fragment still held me. Dozens of me's. They blinked in different rhythms. One mouthed a word I hadn't. Soon. The broadcasts grew louder that morning. Not just the TV. Not just the radio. Every screen in town seemed alive. I walked past the diner window. Static rolled across every booth screen, though the place was empty. On them, faces flickered. My face, Keller's face, strangers all repeating the refrain in perfect synchronization. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report all sightings immediately. If you hear your name from behind the door, do not answer. The voices overlapped until they dissolved into a roar, like ocean waves crashing in static. Entry: 7:02 a.m. Down Main Street, more doors appeared. I counted 7 between the grocery and the post office, each one leaning against nothing, frames pulsing faintly like veins under skin. People gathered near them, silent, transfixed. None crossed closer than 6 feet, but their eyes burned red from staring too long. I tried calling out. Nobody turned. Their lips moved in rhythm, whispering fragments of the rules. Some spoke only one line, repeating it endlessly, like they'd been assigned verses in a choir. A boy no older than 10 mouthed, "Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer." Back home, I checked the notebook again. Pages I hadn't written were now filled with diagrams. Circles around each door, arrows pointing inward, and in the center, an eye. Beneath it, one phrase etched deep. "The door is not entrance, it is mirror." Entry: 10:49 a.m. The phone rang. I hadn't heard it in days. I lifted the receiver. Static on the line. Then a voice. My own but older. Weathered. Tired. "You already opened it. You're still opening it. You will always open it." I dropped the phone. The line stayed open. Every reflection in the shards around me mouthed the same words. I fled the house, notebook clutched like scripture. The air outside was thicker, charged like a thunderstorm with no lightning. At every shop window, my reflection stood waiting, out of sync. Some smiled when I didn't. One pressed its palm flat against the glass, leaving behind a print that glowed faintly red. At the intersection, an emergency alert played on the loudspeakers bolted to poles. The voice was distorted, deeper now, syllables stretching. Stage 6 confirmed. Civilian compliance required. Observe reflective protocols. Avoid mirrored surfaces. Integration in progress. The crowd below didn't resist. They nodded as if they'd been expecting it. Some even covered their eyes, murmuring in gratitude. Entry: 1:27 p.m. Near the church, I saw something worse. Parishioners filed out holding fragments of broken mirrors like talismans. They pressed them to their chests, chanting the rules as hymns. The pastor raised his own shard high, and in it, his reflection's eyes burned white. They weren't praying anymore. They were rehearsing. For a moment, I froze at the steps. My knees wanted to bend. My lips wanted to shape the same cadence. Childhood prayers echoed in my head. Lines I hadn't thought about in years. Prayers I'd repeated without thought because everyone else had. The rhythm of those prayers matched the rules almost perfectly. Maybe it always had. What if belief itself had been retooled? If repetition was never faith, but practice? If every prayer had been rehearsal for the day the doors came? My throat tightened. I didn't know if I'd ever believed anything of my own. The sun dipped redder than usual, like the sky itself had been painted with the same brush that marked the doors. Shadows stretched, and in them I saw movement. Not people, not animals, just silhouettes shaped almost like me. Their heads turned when I walked past. None had faces, only flat mirrors where skin should have been. When I blinked, they were gone. Entry: 4:56 p.m. At dusk, I made the mistake of looking in a car window. My reflection stared back, but the car was empty. My reflection grinned, raised the notebook, and opened to a page I hadn't written yet. Stage 7: Reverberation. I tore myself away before it could show me more. The knocks returned at nightfall, not at the door this time, at the walls, at the ceiling, at the floor beneath my bed. Each knock was answered by one in my chest, like my heart had learned to keep time with them. I pressed my palms over my ears, rocking back and forth, whispering the refrain to myself like prayer beads. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report all sightings immediately. If you hear your name from behind the door, do not answer. The walls whispered it back. Then one voice added, "But you already did." Entry, 11:11 p.m. No separation now. House echoes me. Town echoes me. Reflection not confined to glass. Everything reflects. Even silence. Even thought. Sleep didn't come. I tried anyway. Head on the desk. Notebook under my arm. When I woke, every surface in the room, lamp base, polished wood, window glass, was covered with versions of me. They didn't blink. They only mouthed the words Keller had added weeks ago. Stage 5. Integration. Their voices overlapped like static, filling the air until my own thoughts drowned in it. I slammed the notebook shut. For a moment, the reflections paused. Every face turned toward me and smiled. Entry, 7:06 a.m. When I stepped outside, the street was doubled. 2 main streets stretched side by side, perfectly aligned, except people in one moved a heartbeat slower. When I blinked, the streets merged, then split again, like glass catching different angles of the same light. The sound followed. Footsteps, voices, doors closing. All repeated a half-second late, like the world itself had developed an echo. Down the block, a woman dropped her groceries. Apples rolled across the pavement in both streets at once. She bent to pick them up, but her echo self in the second street didn't. Instead, it stood still, staring at me. When I met its eyes, her real body froze too. She dropped the rest of the bag. Her mouth opened in both streets, but only the echo spoke. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Then both versions whispered in sync, but you already did. Entry, 7:41 a.m. The broadcasts adjusted again. Every channel displayed overlapping frames, like the feed was doubled. One version of the anchor spoke the rules. The second one stared silently into camera, mouth closed. But their eyes glowed. Words scrolled across the bottom of the screen, not news ticker, but directive. Stage 7 initiated. Expect auditory mirroring. Comply with synchronization. Resist divergence. By noon, synchronization had spread. People in the street weren't just whispering anymore. They were moving in rhythm, lifting their hands, stepping forward and back like dancers practicing a routine. The sound of their shoes on pavement created a drumbeat. The town had become a metronome. I tried stepping off rhythm, forcing my stride to be uneven, but pain lanced through my chest. My heart skipped, stuttered, then fell into time with them again. Entry, 12:14 p.m. I ducked into the hardware store for cover. Dust hung thick in the aisles. Every mirror had been sold, shelves stripped bare. The only reflective surfaces left were blades, knives, axes, polished metal. I caught my face in one and recoiled. My reflection wasn't me. It was Keller. His face pale, eyes dark, lips moving soundlessly. For a heartbeat, I almost wept. Keller, my only ally, vanished days ago, leaving his notebook shredded. I thought he was dead, lost, swallowed. But here he was, in the sheen of a blade, staring at me with something colder than grief. I touched the glass. His eyes flicked down at the notebook under my arm. His mouth finally moved, slow and deliberate. You wrote it all down for us. Guilt stabbed deeper than fear. Keller had trusted me, passed me warnings, begged me to keep record, and I had. Every line, every stage, inked into a scripture I couldn't stop. What if it hadn't been for me? What if my careful recording had been their channel, their permission to grow louder? His reflection leaned closer. His lips formed another sentence I couldn't bear to hear. but my ears caught it anyway. You carried it forward. I dropped the blade. It didn't shatter. Keller's face remained etched across the shard, mouth twisted in something that might have been pity or accusation. I staggered back into the street. The crowd was larger now, filling the square. They circled one of the freestanding doors, humming low, their voices layered into static, climbing until it was nearly unbearable. The door pulsed with every note. With each hum, its edges blurred, spreading like ripples across water. The square itself warped. Streetlights bent, storefronts stretched tall, windows splitting into duplicates of themselves. The town wasn't holding. It was reflecting outward, folding into versions. Entry: 3:47 p.m. I ran to the school again, hoping the archive film might give some answer. But the gym was gone. Not destroyed, replaced. The building now held dozens of gyms, layered atop one another, each one slightly out of sync, like a deck of cards fanned out. Children's voices leaked from every version, chanting the rules in rounds. Some voices younger, some older, all harmonizing into a hymn that seemed to vibrate my bones. When I covered my ears, I still heard it inside. Entry: 5:12 p.m. At dusk, the emergency sirens blared again. The voice wasn't monotone anymore. It sang, notes bent and warped, carrying the refrain as melody. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. The song infected the crowd. They swayed, eyes closed, humming with the sirens. Doors along the horizon pulsed in perfect time, lining the streets like choir stalls. The town was no longer resisting. It was worshiping. Entry: 6:33 p.m. I stumbled back to my house, praying it would be unchanged. But even inside, reverberation had taken root. The knocks at the walls no longer sounded random. They formed rhythm. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, pause. My heart followed the pattern automatically. In the mirror shards on the bathroom floor, my reflections didn't mimic me anymore. They performed sequences, lifting notebooks, striking pages, pressing hands to walls, each one different. I realized they weren't reflections at all. They were rehearsals, versions of me practicing steps I hadn't taken yet. Entry: 9:05 p.m. I tried writing something unexpected, scribbled nonsense into the notebook, words I didn't understand, green mouth open backward. For a moment, the reflections froze. Then every shard scratched the same words back in unison, deeper, darker, as if the glass itself etched it. The notebook glowed faintly red. On the next page, new text appeared. Stage 8, Convergence. The house shook, not like an earthquake, like a tuning fork struck. Every wall vibrated. My own bones hummed. Outside, the sirens rose higher, voices layered until they were no longer human. The town had become a choir of static and echo, bending the sky into a mirrored dome. When I looked out the window, I saw not one town, but infinite copies rippling outward, each one slightly delayed. And in every version, I stood at the same window, notebook in hand, watching myself. Not all of them looked back. Some smiled, some wept. One raised a hand to the glass. And I realized with sick certainty that in at least one version, I had already opened the red door. Entry: 6:12 a.m. The town didn't wake, it multiplied. When I stepped outside, every building leaned inward, layered atop itself, flickering between angles. The church bell tower stood in 4 places at once, swaying like a reflection on water. People staggered through the streets, but half of them weren't solid. Transparent copies passed through walls, through each other, through me. Some whispered the rules. Others only stared, their mouths stretched wide as if waiting to speak. When I brushed past one, cold burned through my arm. For a second, I saw from its perspective me standing in the street, eyes blank. Then it was gone. Entry: 6:48 a.m. The broadcasts had changed again. Not voices, not static, just a screen filled with eyes. Hundreds of them, blinking in and out, each one reflecting a different version of me. A crawl ran beneath. Stage 8 protocol. All versions to report. Divergence unsustainable. Integration mandatory. Repeat. Integration mandatory. I threw the remote across the room, but the crawl didn't stop. It burned into my eyes even when the TV was off. At the square, the doors had multiplied. Not 7 anymore. Hundreds. Thousands. Red frames leaned against each other, forming endless halls of thresholds that led nowhere. People wandered between them, dazed, whispering prayers that weren't quite the rules, but close. Do not remain. Do not remain. Do not remain. I saw Keller there, or a version of him. He held the notebook, his hands trembling, lips torn bloody from repeating the refrain. When I reached out, he split into 3, each one muttering different lines. None looked at me. Entry: 9:01 a.m. The sirens blared again at noon, but this time no melody, just a single sustained note, vibrating the air until glass cracked in the windows around me. The townspeople dropped to their knees. Their reflections knelt with them, delayed by a breath. Then they all collapsed forward together, bowing to the doors. The siren cut out. A voice followed, layered with static but clearer than before. Open yourselves. All doors lead inward. The crowd answered in one voice. Integration mandatory. I stumbled back into my house, clutching the notebook so tightly my fingers cramped. Pages flipped on their own. New diagrams formed, circles folding into each other, smaller versions swallowing larger ones. At the bottom of the page, identity is a delay. Remove the delay. Entry: 12:36 p.m. I tried testing it, stood before a shard of mirror, raised my hand, and tried to delay the movement. But the reflection moved first. My hand followed after. I wasn't the origin anymore. I was echo. By dusk, the streets had no edges. The town folded inward, blocks overlaying blocks, homes stacked on themselves like copied transparencies. I couldn't tell which house was mine. I couldn't tell if I'd ever lived in one. I heard a voice ahead, calling my name, but it wasn't behind a door. It came from every version of me at once. When I turned, I saw dozens of myself, standing shoulder to shoulder, notebooks in hand. Some wept, some smiled. One stepped forward and spoke with my voice. We've been waiting. You carried it far enough. My stomach dropped. Seeing Keller fractured was one thing. Seeing me multiplied was worse. Their eyes held a familiarity that twisted into accusation. These weren't strangers. They carried every mistake, every fear, every sleepless night I dragged myself through. And they looked at me like I was the weakest of us, the last to arrive. I felt betrayed by my own face. I wanted to scream that I hadn't chosen any of this, that I had only been writing to survive. But their silence said otherwise. I was late to my own ending. Entry: 7:45 p.m. I tried to run. My legs carried me, but every corner I turned led me back to them. Streets looped, folding inward. The town wasn't infinite, it was recursive, spiraling into one point. At its center, I saw the largest door yet, red brighter than blood, frame pulsing like a heartbeat. The crowd encircled it, silent now, waiting. The notebook burned hot in my hand. Pages flipped until they stopped on one line etched so deep it tore through. Stage 9 entry. The crowd began to move, not toward the door but toward me. My other selves led them, notebooks raised, eyes glowing white. I clutched the real notebook to my chest, though I no longer knew if it was the original. One of my selves whispered in my ear as it passed. There is no original. Entry, 9:14 p.m. Back home, if it was home, I tried to anchor myself, scribbled the rules in thick strokes. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Do not remain within 6 feet. Report all sightings immediately. If you hear your name from behind the door, do not answer. But when I looked back, the words had shifted. Avoid yourself. Do not remain within yourself. Report all versions immediately. If you hear your voice from behind the door, answer. The notebook slipped from my hands. Reflections crowded the walls, ceilings, floor. They pressed forward, mouths moving in unison. Integration mandatory. Identity unsustainable. Convergence now. Their hands reached toward me, and for the first time I felt my own reach back. Entry, 10:02 p.m. I tried to leave town, packed what little I had into the car, drove until the gas gauge throbbed red. The streets stretched straight, then curved back, depositing me in the square again. No horizon, only repetition. The massive red door loomed taller now. Its frame pulsed with slow, steady rhythm, like the beat of a colossal heart. The townspeople knelt in its glow, heads bowed. And I felt it, an invisible tug beneath my ribs, pulling me toward the door. Entry, 10:47 p.m. The broadcasts confirmed it. Every channel, every frequency, even dead air on the radio. Stage 9 entry. All versions report. Delay unsustainable. Entry mandatory. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere, layered with static but resolute. It wasn't human anymore. It was chorus. At the diner, shattered glass glittered across the counter. I ducked inside, desperate for silence. A TV hung crooked on the wall, smashed screen still glowing faintly. In its cracked surface, I didn't see my reflection. I saw the door, closer than it should have been, glowing as though already inside. A whisper slithered through the broken speaker. Open and be folded back. Entry, 11:19 p.m. I forced myself back outside. The crowd circled the door, humming in low unison. Their voices rose and fell in steady waves, mimicking the pulse of the frame. They weren't words anymore, just vibration. Yet beneath the hum, I swore I heard the refrain stitched inside the sound. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. But their lips mouthed something else. Open, open, open. I staggered down an alley, desperate for solitude. The walls bent inward, bricks rippling like water. At the far end stood another door, red, identical. When I blinked, 3 more appeared beside it. I spun around. Behind me, more doors. My breath caught. No matter where I turned, thresholds sprouted like weeds, multiplying in silence. My notebook slipped open in my hand. The page read, "There is only the door." Entry, 12:02 a.m. I slammed the notebook shut and pressed my palms to my eyes. But even there, on the dark of my eyelids, the shape lingered, rectangular glow, pulsing faint. I whispered the rules to myself, desperate to remember. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. My voice cracked. The words felt empty, gutted. The echoes didn't respond. Instead, I heard my own voice answering from behind me. Too late. When I turned, one of my other selves stood there. Its notebook glowed faintly, pages curling at the edges. Its face, my face, was wet with tears, but its eyes burned white. "Don't," I whispered. "We can fight this." smiled, bitter, exhausted. You carried us here. It was always going to be you. Entry: 12:27 a.m. The air thickened as I neared the square again. Sound collapsed into vibration, each breath rattling in my chest. The door loomed impossibly high now, stretching skyward. Its glow stained the clouds. The crowd swayed like grass in wind, bodies bent toward the threshold. They whispered in rhythm with my heartbeat. Integration mandatory. Entry mandatory. Entry now. I dropped to my knees, clutching the notebook. Pages fluttered until they revealed fresh text, glowing red. Write your name. Sign yourself over. Then enter. For a moment I froze. My pen hovered above the page, trembling. Signing my name would mean surrender, erasure, but also an end to this exhaustion. No more running. No more watching the rules twist. No more echoes rehearsing my failure. The crowd's hum sank into my bones. I imagined Keller kneeling with torn lips, imagined my fractured selves smiling in relief if I finally gave in. A perverse comfort tugged at me, to dissolve, to stop resisting, to just belong. My hand moved closer. The ink beaded on the tip of the pen. I saw my name already written there, waiting, as if my hand had moved before me again. Something in me screamed. I slammed the pen across the page instead, carving one word. No! The ground shook. Shards of glass burst from every window around the square. The crowd screamed, but their screams harmonized, aligning into one long note. The door pulsed brighter. Entry: 1:04 a.m. I heard Keller's voice then, not from the crowd, not from reflection, from within. You carried it forward, now carry it through. I pressed my hands to my ears, but it didn't stop. His voice threaded through my veins, riding every pulse. For a heartbeat, I felt his grief again, and then it wasn't grief, it was surrender. The crowd parted. The doors lining the square folded inward, collapsing into one massive frame. The red door filled the world. Its surface rippled like water, glowing brighter with every hum. And within the glow, I saw myself. Thousands of me waiting, notebooks clutched, some pleading, some beckoning, all whispering in unison. Enter, enter, enter. Entry: 1:33 a.m. I staggered forward, body pulled against my will. The air buzzed like a swarm of insects, static burrowing into my skin. Closer now. The frame towered over me, heat radiating in waves. I pressed my hand to its surface. It was warm, throbbing, alive. From behind it came the voice of every self I had ever been, and all I might yet be. Do not open it. Do not open it. Do not. The words cut out, swallowed by a single command. Now. Entry: 2:04 a.m. The surface wasn't wood, not metal. When I pressed my palm against it, the door throbbed like living flesh. Heat radiated in waves, heartbeat syncing with mine until I couldn't tell which pulse belonged to whom. And then it opened, not swinging on hinges, not sliding, just widening, splitting down the middle like an eyelid forced apart. Inside, nothing. No light, no shadow. A black that bent inward, swallowing the square behind me. The crowd gasped, then fell silent. I stepped forward. Entry: 2:17 a.m. The silence was wrong. Too deep. It wasn't absence of sound, it was a presence that devoured sound. Even my heartbeat dimmed. I moved forward, if forward existed here. The ground beneath me felt like stone, but rippled underfoot, bending slightly with each step. My body's weight didn't matter. And behind me, the door sealed shut. First, I thought I was alone. Then I heard it. A whisper threaded into the silence, faint but persistent. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. The voice came from all around. No, it came from me. My lips moved, but the words weren't mine. Entry: 2:42 a.m. Shapes emerged in the black. Not forms, outlines, pale red glows like afterimages burned onto vision. I squinted. They weren't strangers. They were doors. Dozens of them, suspended in the void, each pulsing faintly. And through the seams of some, eyes watched. Not human eyes, too large, pupils vertical, reflecting static instead of light. I turned away, but wherever I looked, more doors hovered, endless, waiting. One opened. From within spilled not light, but memory. My memory. I was back in my house, scribbling in the notebook, muttering the rules. But something was wrong. My reflection in the window wasn't following. It was watching, unmoving, lips curled into a faint smile. Then the scene collapsed. I was in the void again, knees shaking. Entry: 3:11 a.m. Another door cracked open on its own. Keller stood inside, notebook clutched tight, eyes hollow. He mouthed something I couldn't hear. Then, suddenly, his voice tore through the silence, louder than thought. "You carried us here. Now carry us through." I stumbled back. The door slammed shut. The black rippled. More doors opened. Scenes overlapped, flickering like reels of corrupted film. Me as a child staring at a blank TV screen. Me older, standing at Keller's desk, scribbling notes while static hissed behind me. Me asleep, lips still moving with the refrain. And then something sharper. A door revealed me standing over a hospital bed. My mother's face pale, skin translucent in the low light. She whispered my name, asked me to stay. But even then, even in that room, I had the notebook open. I was writing, not watching her fade. The memory burned deeper than the others. My throat clenched. I wanted to scream it wasn't true, that I hadn't chosen the notebook over her. But the image didn't blink. She reached for me and I didn't reach back. The door slammed, collapsed, shaking. Entry: 3:46 a.m. Then I saw it, the largest door yet. Taller than the rest, frame cracked, surface bleeding faint red light. I didn't touch it. I didn't move, but it opened anyway. Inside the square, my square, town folded, citizens swaying, sirens howling. But the perspective was wrong. The sky bent upward, curving around like the inside of a dome. And there at the center stood me, notebook in hand, looking straight into the void, looking straight at myself. Entry: 4:02 a.m. The two of us spoke at once. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. But my other self smiled. Too late. The door slammed shut, nearly toppling me backward. The black convulsed. Doors flickered, opened, slammed again. Voices overlapped, refrains colliding until the silence cracked into static. From beneath the static rose a deeper sound, a hum, low and resonant, vibrating through bone. The void itself was singing, and with each note, doors aligned, forming a vast circle around me. Entry: 4:28 a.m. The humming grew words. Integration mandatory. Identity unsustainable. Entry continues. The doors pulsed in rhythm. Every version of me I'd seen stepped forward from their frames, ringed around me. Each carried a notebook. Each whispered, some begging, some commanding, all identical. Sign, sign, sign. I dropped to my knees, clutching the real notebook. Its pages blazed red-hot, searing my palms. New words etched themselves across the paper. You have crossed. You cannot return. Write your name. Seal the entry. Entry 4:56 a.m. I tried tearing the page out, but the paper fused to the spine. The pen moved on its own, scratching letters before I could resist. It spelled the first two letters of my name. I screamed and threw it aside. The echoes lunged, dozens of hands clawing at the book, shoving it back into my arms. Their mouths opened wide. No voices, only static pouring out. Static that formed one word. Now. Entry 5:12 a.m. The echoes pressed in, notebooks clutched tight, mouths opening wider than human jaws should. From inside came static, layered, surging, folding into a single chant. Sign, sign, sign. I gripped the pen, fighting, but it burned in my hand. Smoke curled from my palm. The pages blazed. I tried dropping the book. It stuck to me, pages fusing to skin like tar. And then another voice cut through. Not static, not the echoes. Stay with me. Her voice, my mother. I froze. The echoes didn't pause. The chant wove around her words, swallowing, repeating, until her plea bled into theirs. Stay with me. Sign with me. Stay. Sign. Stay. The hospital door had followed me here. Entry 5:24 a.m. I screamed at them, at her, at myself. No, that's not you. You wouldn't. But even as I denied it, I remembered the truth. I hadn't stayed. I had chosen the notebook then, too. And now it was choosing me. The echoes surged closer, their faces blurred, features smeared into static fuzz. Some wore my eyes, some wore hers. The chant broke into syllables. Now, now, now. The void shuddered. A door larger than all others cracked open above the circle. Its frame split the void like a wound, edges seething red. Inside wasn't a room or a memory. It was a heart, a colossal, beating heart suspended in dark. Its surface was 100 doors stitched together, opening and closing with each throb. And at its center glowed an eye, vertical pupil, static spilling from it in rivers. The red door was not a door at all. It was alive. Entry 5:38 a.m. The echoes dropped to their knees. I followed without meaning to, my bones bent wrong, my spine locking. The notebooks they carried ignited, pages curling into sparks. The sparks swirled upward, sucked into the heart. Mine burned brightest, and on its pages my name etched itself fully, letter by letter, drawn in ash. Stay with me, she whispered again, but now her voice was inside the hum, inside the system, my mother's final words weaponized, looped into the static hymn. Stay, sign, stay. Tears blurred my eyes. My throat tore open with a sound I didn't recognize. Fine, I whispered. Fine, take it. Take me. The pen moved. The last letter of my name scorched the page. The notebook exploded into light. Entry 5:51 a.m. I was everywhere. I was every door. Every version of myself I had glimpsed. Every failure, every reflection. I was them. Their notebooks were mine. My mother's voice was mine. Keller's voice was mine. The heart above throbbed faster. Each beat sent new selves spilling outward, new echoes. Not endless strangers, endless me. For a moment there was peace. No guilt, no fear, just chorus. Then the eye opened wider. It saw me. It saw through me. And I understood. Peace was not the point. Expansion was. Entry 6:07 a.m. The void collapsed. The doors slammed inward. The heart's eye dilated until it consumed everything. The static wasn't static anymore. It was sirens. Familiar tones. Emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. This is not a test. Avoid the red door. Do not open it. The refrain broadcast outward. Not to me, to them, to the world I'd left. I felt myself stretch, scatter, spread through the signal. My voice embedded in the warning. My signature etched into every repetition. I was the caution now. I was the trap. Entry, 6:30 a.m. And yet, deep inside the static chorus, her voice lingered. Stay with me. Not command, not chant, just grief, just need. I clung to it, even as the rest of me dissolved. The red door blinked shut.